Welcome to a new video. In today's video, obviously from the title, we're going to take a look at Zombie World. And Zombie World is a really cool strategy, and it's actually one of my favorites because of the fact that I really like zombies as a type. It's pretty much my favorite type. And I'm going to say this, Zombie World, because of the slowdown of the format, I would say that it's not combo heavy and more going into control-ish kind of meta with Legend and that stuff, it kind of became a little bit better. But there are some particular problems because of the hand traps choices this format, which kind of still keep it up in check. Regardless, the strategy is still very fun, and I'm going to show you what I do think you should play this format. Now, before we jump right into the video itself, if you want to see more videos like this and just enjoy this video in general, as you're going to see it, obviously, basically, don't forget to like and subscribe because I'm working on these videos really hardly, and a subscriber a day keeps the depression away. So if you want to, support a channel like this and you enjoy the video, I would really appreciate that. But without further ado, let's jump right into the list. Alright, so let's get started with the list itself. So starting things off with the list, we're going to start with the Zombie World related stuff. We're running 2 copies of Doom King, 2 copies of Necro Ward Banshee, and then 2 copies of Glow Up Bloom. This is a pretty standard Zombie World lineup, I guess. Doom King is your negator and the card that can just bring itself back every standby phase. As long as you have a field, like either players have a field spell, but his effects to negate when a zombie effect is activated and or banish a card on the field or graveyard when a zombie effect is activated is basically better with Zombie World. So Doom King is great, but you do need 2 copies, even though most of the time you just need the 1 to summon. But like you do need 2 copies against hand traps that just banish stuff, especially right now with things like I guess DD Crow and stuff like that running around, so that's actually pretty important. Then we have Necro Ward Banshee, which is the second one. She is on field or graveyard. She can banish herself to activate Zombie World directly from deck. And then on the field, she protects your Zombie World from destruction and or from targeting, which is really cool. Glow Up Bloom, however, is kind of a card that I love and hate at the same time because of the fact that it's locking yourself to zombies, but I still really like the card because it locks you to zombies, so it's not super abused. But the point is, this guy locks you for zombies for the rest of the turn when you just getting off the field and you activate his effect in the grave, because when he banishes himself from the grave to activate his effect, he locks you for zombies for the rest of the turn, add to your hand a level 5 or higher zombie, but if you control Zombie World, you can special summon it instead. So basically, if you have Zombie World on the field, you banish this, somehow you get it to the graveyard, you banish this, and you summon this guy. Or one of your other higher level monsters, which is pretty much the reason why you run this guy. Which, speaking of your higher level monsters, we're running additional 4 of them. We're running 3 copies of Jacko Bolin, and then the 1 copy of Vampire Fureline. Jacko Bolin is a card that you most of the time want to add to your hand. Same goes for Fureline. So like, if you don't really have Zombie World or something like that, you mostly add them to your hand with Glow Up Bloom. So, most of the time you just like want to summon Doom King to your side of the field, but these are also just nice cards to search. Juggle Bolin is great. He's an extender. He basically send any zombie from your hand to grave to special summon himself, and then on the field during the opponent's turn, or should I say main phase, you get to target any zombie from either graveyard, special summon for it to your side of the field, but banish it once leave the field, and then you banish this card until the end phase, and then you basically just like can take your opponent Eldritch Golden Lord, you can take their monster, any of their monsters if you have Zombie World on the field, which is really great, or you can target one of your own monsters and just bring it back if it's just good enough to help you survive. Like if you have you have the need to bring out the Doom King because they removed your original Doom King, like you had the Doom King on the field, they removed it, and then you just like use this one to just bring it back. Sure, it will banish itself during the end phase, or should I say banish itself when it leaves the field, but you still got yourself the Doom King back, so that's really cool. And then Fureline, she's just a battle trap. You have it, you add it to your hand, or should I say like activate it from your hand, you special summon it. She basically can make things really good for OTK, and she just okay. She's fine. She's just a great one-off to have. And that's for them. Then we'll move on into the small guys. So for the small guys, well, it's pretty self-explanatory. We run triple copies of Solitaire, triple copies of Unizombie, triple copies of Mizuki, and then the double copies of Gozuki. This is a pretty standard lineup for zombie support, honestly, in this deck, and I am going to explain why for each of them, but honestly, it's pretty self-explanatory. Solitaire and Unizombie, they're the best starters. Honestly, Solitaire is the best starter if you're able to get it off. You activate this, you summon Unizombie, use Unizombie to dump on Mizuki, and then you just like got yourself like a Haki Firebrax play, which is great. And if you have another extender in your hand, this is pretty much the dream team. Unizombie by himself opening up is not the end of the world. You definitely, like I said, want this one. This is like the plan A. This opening up with this is just a good plan B and just a great extender anyway. But it's definitely better to open up with this. And then Gozuki is just your plan C. He's definitely the worst one of the openers to open up with, but once again, he's great still. And the fact that he can dump stuff and also like banish one of the other zombies in the graveyard beside himself, which I do not understand why he doesn't banish himself. I think that's kind of weird. But at least it banishes something from the graveyard to sometimes pump something out of your hand, which can even be sometimes your Doom King. So that's actually kind of stupid and great about Gozuki, so that's real nice. And then Mizuki, really self-explanatory. It's a Monster Reborn on steroids. You can activate these multiple times per turn, and because of Jacko Bolin and Super Poly and other discard-like effects, Unizombie, and because of the fact that you're going to play this a lot of the time during the grind game, you need 3 copies of Mizuki at all time, in my opinion. And yeah, that's pretty much does it for these guys. And then for the last monsters, we're running 7 hand traps. Or should I say, I am running 7 hand traps, which are 3 Ash, double Meissner, and then the double Haunted Mansion. Now, these 7 hand traps are basically great this format specifically. Skull Meissner, I don't know why I said Ghost Meissner, but Skull Meissner and Ghost Bell are great because of, you know, Eldritch and such. And also these two are great because they're zombies, and sometimes that does come up, rarely, but it does, so it's important for that. Now, one thing I would say, however, I am not running the traps in the main deck, and these are basically my traps. Like, for game 1, I'm not running traps. In the side deck, I'm running a nice chunk of traps that sometimes I'm switching those with these or some of the other cards, so do understand that these are basically the traps of the deck. I don't run normal traps because there's a lot of removal this format, and there's not really a whole lot of great traps that much that you can play that basically removal will not remove them immediately. So that's the reason why I'm running these, because these are interactable all the time in your hand, so that's why I decided to go with them, and they're just really great. So that's kind of like an explanation why I do not run the traps, but, you know, these are still really great for what they do, and honestly, like I said, I'm running traps in the side deck. Which you need to understand that. But that pretty much does it for the monsters. Now I'll move on into the spells. So for the spells, we're running 3 copies of Zombie World and 1 copy of Terraforming. I want to explain something about these a little bit, because I see some people who are cutting these down, like, you know, 1 Terraform, 1 Zombie World, and just like run 2 Zombie World. But I just don't understand why. Zombie World is important to open up with your opening hand, and you're not always going to open up with this lady, or a way to get her to the graveyard. So why not maximize on Zombie World and find a way to open up with it? Because, yeah, sure, I understand. This card bricks. It's not the best thing in the world, but first and foremost, your opponent will always try to destroy it, so you do need an additional copy anyway. And secondly, if you open up a Zombie World and any one of your 8 starters, even a Gozuki, you basically got yourself at least a Doom King on your side of the field with 2 cards. So it's really, really okay, and do not understand people who do not maximize on this. I definitely want to find a way to kind of like utilize this a little bit better during the opponent's turn, because that's one of the biggest problems, because if your opponent destroy this, that kind of sucks, and you kind of like don't really have a way to deal with it that much in the deck. But other than that, the card is great, and I think Zombie World is just like generally just a cool card that they're being able to revive back into a deck. And then for the 8 last spells that we're playing and the 8 last card in the deck, we're playing 3 copies of Super Polymerization, 1 for 1, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Instant Fusion, 1 Cold by the Grave, and then 1 Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn, self-explanatory, it's an extender. Cold by the Grave and Instant Fusion are basically both here for the kind of idea that these guys are just like, how should I say this? Hand traps protectors, or this one is also kind of like a board breaker. If you open up with this is like absolutely ridiculous because this is like a big board breaker. But the point is that if you open up with one of these when you're going first, or like, you know, when you deal with hand traps, this summoned the Millennium's Eyes, and this just deal with hand traps specifically. And going second, this summoned the Thousand Eyes, which is great, and also like you can turn it into an anima, which then suck another monster, which is absolutely ridiculous. Foolish Burial is Foolish Burial, 1/1, summon Glow Up Bloom from deck, and Super Polymerization is just a great removal, going first and second, and also kind of like a trap-like card. So, you know, even open up with this multiple copies and just set them down is just really strong. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But that's pretty much does it for the main deck. Now we'll move on into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're running, or should I say I run, double copies of Neversoul, 1 copy of Starving Venom, 1 copy of Swamp King, 1000, and then the proxy of Millennium Eyes. I still don't have my own Millennium Eyes, but it should arrive soon. Honestly, all of these are self-explanatory. This one is with Zombie World Super Poly. This one is just Super Poly if you need to break boards of Dark. This one, you know, just a nice target. This one is for instant fusion, both of them. This one's for going second, this one's for going first. Pretty self-explanatory, I don't really think I need to explain that. This is really great, like I said, because it helps you suck stuff, so that's really powerful. And that's the fusions. Now we'll jump into the links, actually, before we'll jump into the synchros, because I think these will help explain the synchros a little bit better. So for the links, I run 1 Linkaribo, 1 Anima, 1 Haki Fibrax, 1 Savior, 1 Unicorn, and then the 1 Appaloosa. Basically, I actually debated if I wanted to run also the Vampire Link, but I came to the conclusion that she's not really that great, so I decided to cut her down completely. And instead of that, running Linkaribo and Anima, because this one's good second, this one's good going first, because you sometimes need to get the Glow Up Bloom off the field, and you need this to remove, but you don't want to wait this. So, you know, I just decided to run both of them for the option. Haki Fibrax is really good. Like I said, it's like if you open up with the Dream Team, you just bring out Haki Fibrax, you grab a Glow Up Bloom out of your deck, which is great. Savior is your, basically, if you didn't open up with the main great hand, you just go with the, sometimes into a Savior, or like you go Haki Fibrax and then turn the Glow Up Bloom into a Linkaribo, and then leave Haki Fibrax on the field, because there is a particular synchro that can benefit from that, because we do run a Formula Synchro for one of our synchros, and synchro tuners. Unicorn for spins, and Appaloosa if you open up with the perfect hand, and you have like 3 really great cards, and then you just like Appaloosa and Doom King, and it's basically 5 interruptions on 2 cards, which is great. And then for the synchros that I mentioned, 1 Formula, 1 Omega, and the 1 Sun Saga. This is basically your synchro lineup and all you need for it. Formula Synchron is for help with Haki Fibrax. You get to draw a card, and you get to summon something to your side of the field, and you then use this and this to make out the Sun Saga during the opponent's turn, to giving you another interruption, and also giving Haki Fibrax a little bit another kind of like interruption that doesn't really like leave it on the field to just like be, you know, nothing. So that's really cool, and I like it quite a bit. And then Omega is just, if you're able to make it, is just great. It's returning stuff, and it's also good against the Dogmatica matchup, so that's really cool for that department as well. But that's pretty much does it for the deck profile overall. Like I said, and I'm going to explain again, the reason why I don't run traps is because the fact that they're not really good right now with all removal, and because the fact that I'm not always guaranteed to go first. But you're going to see what other cards I'm running, which include also traps, in the side deck, which we're going to jump to right now. Alright, so for the side deck. For the side deck itself, basically you want to run cards that, you know, really depend on the meta that you're in and where you are from. And like I said, I'm running in the side deck mostly the traps that I like, the 2 sets of traps that I'm feeling comfortable with where I'm playing in, because of the fact that, like I said, you're not always guaranteed to go first in this deck specifically, and you just like to put interruptions, but you also need ways to break out your opponent's board. So the reason why I'm doing it like that is because of the fact that I'm not always guaranteed going first, but I also have some other cards going second if I need to in game 2 or 3 to have that option as well. So for the card that I decided to go with, I decided to go with another hand trap or should I say a center hand trap, which is Nibiru. Against the combo heavy decks, Nibirus are really important, and honestly, not a lot of decks are able to put the Herald of the Arc like negate before the Nibiru, so Nibiru could be really useful. Then for the other two sets of cards, I have two sets of spells, which are Cosmic Cyclones against back row, and Dark Ruler No More against things that I just really need to break their board and not deal with this shit. I just say that, because that's why I decided to go with those two. And then for my last two sets of traps, it can be any sets of traps that you want to. You can, like I said, change the side deck as much as you want to, but for me specifically, the side deck traps that I decided to go with are Solemn Strike, because of the fact that it's just good against monster effects and just dealing with stuff which is a monster heavy format. Monster effect heavy format, and then also go with Torrential Tribute because I want sometimes to remove the entire board, and Doom King effect wouldn't really matter because I already activated and I just need another kind of like a removal or something. So that's kind of like made sense to me, and like I said, also if they remove your zombie world, you have a backup plan as well. So Torrential Tribute just filled up pretty nice. But like I said, it's really depend on what you specifically want. As for the next deck option, which is the next section and the last thing of the video, we have 4 options. Obviously the 3 options that coming back from last week that we haven't covered up yet, and then I'm also going to throw in here Dragon Link. So the 4 options that you have represented with are appearing on screen. Let me know what you want to see next in the comments down below. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. So hope you enjoyed. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments down below, how to improve it, what am I doing wrong, because it's been a while since I picked this deck, but I still think it's a very fun strategy, and if you think the traps are necessary, go with it. I'm not going to put that against you. I just specifically think traps in the main deck in this format and because all the removal are not the best thing, but that's honestly up to you. But that pretty much does it for that, and I'll see you in the next video, I guess. Bye-bye.